Hi everyone, I'm Robert Patience, and I'm going to start when my slides start, so otherwise I'll be out of time. So, my name is Robert Patience. I like taking things apart, and I always have. I like beer, my attention span's not that great, and I like to make stuff normally from the things I've taken to bits. I'm here to share a project that I'm passionate about, and it's based on accessibility and open source. So this is something I've been knocking around for a while since leaving the bar trade. And after my master's, researching compliant robotics and 5 years of work in design, I've finally got into beginning Studio Moger with my partner who's hiding over here. So I'm basically here today to talk about the maker economy and where Studio Moger sort of sits within this idea. So makers are people that use their skills to make physical objects, and the economy part to me is the skills and the knowledge and how that's shared, and the idea is being a resource within the value system, not solely based on money. And so this ethos chimes with the maker movement that I've seen grow over the last 10 years, and that's sort of based more on a tech background with lots of projects ending up looking at this. Based on Arduinos and hacking electronics and sort of microcontrollers and things like that. So if we break it down, we have the makers, we've got their currency, which is their skills, their knowledge, their money and their tools. And as far as learning and sharing goes, the Google machine's pretty much got that covered. It's pretty good at that with YouTube and forums and things. But the actual tools these makers need are pretty hard to get. The accessibility is not really there, and it's quite a big monetary investment. So the accessibility at the core beliefs of Studio Moger, we're starting our first project, which is Start Point, and that's to build a library of instructions for building these expensive tools at home. And it's not a new idea with things like Instructables. They're doing peer-to-peer learning, but with that, it's quite hard to know what's going up and make sure it's all good. So the similarity with these websites is that we want to create a way of sharing these objects and have them made for non-makers and with easy-to-follow instructions and sort of biomaterials, things like that. But the difference is the objects we're putting up, they're not one-offs and they're not projects like personal projects, but they're specifically tailored for the design, through the design approach, to be made by non-makers. So people tend to think, oh, that's cool, you're going to use like digital fabrication and all that sort of stuff. But really, digital fabrication doesn't take less skill, it just moves the skills you need from hands-on approach to a more software-based and sort of computer realm. And these tools are just too expensive for graduates and hobbyists to use. So there's a lot of digital fabrication sort of companies out there, but the problem is it's not easy to use if you're not familiar with it. And also it's still fairly expensive. So the making is also very detached, so it's almost like an order and receive kind of setup. So there's no opportunity to play. And when I'm talking about play, I'm talking about the ability to sort of explore freely. And for a master's, luckily, I had ownership over a laser cutter. And because of that, I wasn't restrained by the usual business model of sort of time and cost-driven worries. So I could explore freely. So this really enforced the importance of ownership and play being interdependent, and a mantra that I live by, which is if it ain't broke, break it. I think it's really important to know and understand the tools around you, and sort of have the ability to say, you know, I'm going to try that out, and if it doesn't work, then it's fine, I've broken it, but I can fix it, I know how to do that. So how do you gain this sort of knowledge and this sort of play mode that you can enter? Well, the easiest way is if you make something yourself. And so this is my 3D printer. I had absolutely no idea how these things worked when I started out, but by the end of the build process and by going through that build, and now I'm quite happy with them. So here's a basic breakdown of what Start Point wanted to do. We wanted to have a sort of a design overview of all the objects. So we've got the sort of overview, the outputs that the thing can do, the sort of build instructions with videos and sort of shopping lists and all that sort of thing. And the first piece of equipment that we're going to make is our roller press, which we're designing also to be a clay slab roller for our ceramicists. With focus on sort of cost and accessibility. So it's not going to be top-end machine stuff, but it's going to be stuff that does the job. So something we want to grow from the start, alongside the library, is a community of makers and collaborators that people can provide sort of input from the experiences they've gained to make the designs better. And what I want to release into the wild is all this equipment so that it can go into making workshops and things like that. Really feel that sort of the access to this equipment also opens up opportunities within schools, colleges, hobbyists, universities, and I really like the idea that you can leave your education not just with the mindset and the sort of thinking processes that you've acquired, but also with a physical object that you can use to help yourself as a maker. So Studio Moger is based down in Unit 7 just now, beside the old graving docks in Govan, and it's run just off Roan Backs. After release of our first piece of equipment, we're going to look for a bit of funding so that it can really nail into the library. And yeah, so I hope that after this brief talk that I've sort of got you on board with the idea that makers need their objects. So potters need their wheels, weavers need their looms, sort of printmakers, their presses, and the list goes on. And I hope you understand that there's a fairly big impact in needing this stuff. It's sort of how you get better as makers, and to have ownership over an object that you're not worried about breaking really just lets you grow as a maker. So yeah, thanks very much.